Now, the geniuses over at the Republican Party in Texas have done it again, this time emailing their entire election strategy plus their concerns to the Democratic Party. Now, I know the last story that I did where you had Republicans accidentally emailing strategy to Democrats actually happened at the national level when it came to the White House strategy. Now, we had the local parties somehow doing the same thing and not quite understanding how email works. So, again, this happened in Texas, where apparently even the blunders are bigger. Mm. Uh, when the Texas Republican Party again emailed their election 2020 strategy to the Texas Democrats, according to the Dallas Morning News. So let me give you what they wrote. The document titled Primary / General Election 2020 Draft, because it's a draft, began showing up in Democratic emails on Monday and included a list of 12 state house districts that the GOP is targeting in 2020. Fun. Starting after the primary, the document reads the RPT will generate microsites for negative hits against the Democratic candidates. I'm sorry, Democrat candidates, because that's what they say. In our 12 target race, we expect each microsite to be roughly $500. We will then begin rolling out these websites, prioritizing the races that were within 4% in the 2018 election. And so they're doing micro websites. So that's fun. Now, another strategy laid out in this document is a plan to purchase online domain names affiliated with the names of the Democratic candidates so that they can do some tricky stuff when it comes to the algorithm where they buy those sites so that whenever somebody searches on the name or searches for the name of Texas Democrats, their site will pop up first in the list, promoted, whatever, which will have, of course, negative stuff about that candidate. So we've seen that before. Okay. And so, look, that's normal. I guess seems like normal strategy today, and at least they're savvy enough to say, let's buy the domain names. Okay, fun. Uh, Now the strategy email continues. It says, we will attack these Democrat candidates with contrast hits, which we will obtain from public votes from the 86th legislative session, their campaign websites, and any other means to gather negative material on them. Again, seems like fairly standard, okay? But now that the Democrats know that this is part of the strategy, well, they can adjust accordingly, right? They can beat Republicans maybe to those campaign websites and maybe, I don't know, do the same thing to the Republicans. Whatever. But that's not really the interesting part of the story. No. What's interesting here is the realization of the Republicans in Texas that the president is toxic to their campaigns. Now, this is fun. It said, given the polarizing nature of the president, I suspect some Republicans will refuse to turn out during the general election because they don't want to vote for him. Though I don't know that we will know what this universe would look like without us or a stakeholder creating a model. And so there is a concern among Republicans in Texas that people will not turn out for the president. Now, we're not sure. We're not sure until they create a model, a predictive model of voters. But there is that concern that people will stay home. Now, it continues by saying, regardless, I suggest we set up a contingency budget to target these folks with mailers, digital ads, and text to encourage them to turn out for U.S. Senate, State House, and so on. So please come vote for us. I don't care if you don't want to vote for Donald Trump. Show up for these state elections. Very, very important. So understand how big this is, right? You have Texas Republicans that are openly, not openly, but concerned, among each other, right? That Donald Trump is going to depress the vote because he's so deeply unpopular. and therefore not turn out and actually help local down ballot races. Really important. And look, they have some obviously evidence that Trump does not help bring out the vote the way that he used to. We have several, actually, a lot of recent races where Donald Trump would go down and he would campaign very heavily, and he would do rallies and speeches and all that. And then still, you would have Democrats that would win in these seats. We had that, of course, in Virginia with some of the recent races. And so Donald Trump's not having the pull that he used to. And in fact, he seems to be hurting in some of these down ballot races. And so, yes, they are very, very concerned. The fear is indeed real. That base is starting to crack. And Republicans, at least in Texas, know this. Now, that's not to say that a Democrat's going to win Texas. I mean, look, here you have, for example, the national race, right? So now no Democrat beats Donald Trump in Texas as of right now. And so you can look at the polling, right? Do they come close? They come, I think, within about 5 to 10 points. And it depends. And of course, the Democrat, Joe Biden, actually does the best in Texas, which doesn't surprise me because Joe Biden is basically Republican. But look, at the same time, again, Republicans, they're more worried about the local races because Democrats are actually doing much better in the local races than when it comes to, of course, the general election and the presidential race. Okay. And so they're worried that if people don't turn out for Trump, then they're not going to turn out for these races, which could hand the state houses, even if it nationally goes to Trump, state houses over to the Democrats, which would make it even more of a purple, maybe possibly a blue state down the line. So that is really, really telling and really, really interesting and very significant. And so, boy, they are concerned. Now, the Texas Democratic Party, they had a little bit of fun with this. I want to read that statement here. This is from Manny Garcia, Executive Director of the Texas Democratic Party. And he told the Dallas Morning News, quote, Republicans have already fumbled the ball, and we aren't even in 2020 yet. Texas is the biggest battleground state, and Texas Democrats are poised to win in 2020, thanks in part to the polarizing nature of Trump, adding that Republicans are in, quote, big trouble. So, again, Republicans admitting we're really concerned about this. Donald Trump is a liability. I never thought that I would see that. A Republican president, a Republican incumbent president, being a liability in Texas. Again, there's no guarantee of, a Democratic presidential candidate, especially winning in Texas or winning the state of Texas during a general matchup. But again, these local state houses, they are really, really important. And there are a lot of places that were traditionally Republican where Democrats either have won or they have come very, very close in the era of Donald Trump. And so this is really, really interesting and really disastrous for the Republican Party going forward. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.